Ho, ho, ho!
Nice cannonball, Santa. Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk, and we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing, unless it's the reindeer. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo. It's undecided if he's on the naughty or nice list. Edgar de Jesus and his co-host, JJ Flawless and Zac the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I am your host, Edgar de Jesus, and yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zac, the Pool Boy Nicholas. Today, we're doing a deep dive into financials. We're talking about KPIs. We're talking about all that financial stuff. But before we do that, I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, a podcast where it's all pool talk, and we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we get started today, I want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the Ultimate Pool Tools, the SPPA, Blu-ray Excel, AquaStar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, and Hayward Pool Products. We want to thank them for their continued support. Zac, good morning.
I think we've talked about this before, but I truly believe that we're getting to the point where we're going to have to come up with new titles for ourselves, because I'm sitting here, John, the fastest netter in the West. I'm like, I don't know about that anymore. And I'm looking at myself in the pool boy, and I've got like gray hairs in my beard. What, 2 more years? And then
that's it, right? I'm the champion of Marco Polo, but the water's a little too cold unless it's 90 degrees to swim in it.
I don't know. We need to start thinking about that, but I'm doing good. I'm excited. It's been a long time coming, but I finally got a new computer, and I've got to give a big shout out to John, because without him doing the whole deep dive thing, I don't think I would have one that is, I want to say, as good as I've got, because this thing, I don't know anything about it. I know it's got cool lights and stuff and 2 terabytes of storage, which I don't know if I'll ever use that, but I've got it now.
Oh, let's trade, because I just got the new desktop and it's already almost full.
Like, really?
Just between the videos and the pictures for the awards, not all of them, just the first batch was like 75 gigabytes of video and pictures and all that. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm having to start to look at like big time external storage. But then it becomes an issue. By the way, people, this is a pool podcast, but we're talking technology here. But it becomes nowadays with everybody connected everywhere, right? So it's like if we're at a show and I want to get some of that content to our editor and stuff like that, it's like, how do you do it? Unless it's like a cloud base. And so there's so many different things that go into it. But what I love about talking to John is like a lot of times I don't have time to deep dive and geek out and look at things. You can spend hours looking at stuff. And I'm like, John, this is what I need. Top of the line. It's done.
Yeah, and then I was just like, click buy,
yeah,
we're good to go.
That's what I did with the desktop. I'm like, John, I need this. I need to make sure it has this. I need to make sure it has that. Just send me the link to click and purchase. And he's like, oh, there you go. Click. So he's really good at it. Yeah. So everybody, John is out today. He is out actually at the Golden Ticket out at AquaStar, which they've been quiet this morning. Nobody's posted, right? Or is it just me?
I've seen a couple, and it looks like it's going to be an amazing time.
From this morning?
No, not from this morning, just from
yesterday.
People like arriving and stuff like that. Yeah.
I wonder if we should call Todd on the live podcast and be like, bro, you should put them on the spot.
I'm getting FOMO right now.
I totally have FOMO. Okay, so I checked. Todd posted, let's see here, Golden Ticket winner. Oh, dude. Oh, this majorly has given me FOMO. Okay, so everybody that's listening, if you're not watching to this, you can't watch it. But Zac, look at this.
They have a bus?
They have a bus, dude. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even put this phone straight because I'm left-handed here. So wait, hold on. Let me do it with the right hand. Look at that. Everybody is on the bus and they're all going, oh, man. And we're not there, bro.
If anyone's listening that's there right now, we are very jealous, and I hope you all have a good time.
Yeah, we have major FOMO. So everybody out there that's out at the golden ticket, big shout out to all you guys. Congratulations for winning that. I hope you guys enjoy it. I know that it's going to be an amazing time. Wait, I got some chat here. Rob Stewart, good early afternoon, gents. What's going on, brother? Shout out to you. How cold is it up there just about now, Rob? Is it a little too cold yet or not yet? So any snow? So John's out, but anyways, big shout out to everybody out at AquaStar. Looking forward to seeing more videos and more stuff like that of what they're doing up there.
Yeah, so big announcement. Some people already know. And before we get into today's topic, I want to briefly go over this. I'm super excited about it. I want to talk about our Pool Nation Business Matrix program, which is our newest edition. And this program was designed to help pool professionals grow, scale, and manage their businesses effectively. And the focus behind it was one, education, but also providing like the tools and resources for accountability that are tailored specifically to running your business in the pool industry. And this is going to be a great program for all of you out there who are looking to take your business to the next level and learn those business skills that will help you understand your finances better, help you with your hiring, your retention, and help you increase your client base, your revenue, all of those things. And Edgar, I'm going to let you go through all of the key features on this and kind of explain to everyone what all of that entails.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, I was trying to scrounge through Instagram to see if I found any more pictures because I really do have that FOMO now. Yeah, anyway, so we're excited to do the business group. And again, there's a big talk about the name of it, right? The Matrix, but it's a business group, the mastermind. The biggest thing that it is, Zach, is really what you were talking about, that community of like-minded business owners that really want to take their business to that next level. And so there's a couple of different things that we're going to be doing that you can have access to. Is you'll have educational modules where we're going to go in depth into the finances, which is always a big, huge one, sales and marketing, employee management, training, branding, scaling, growth strategies, all that. But it's going to be in depth that we're going to go into each one of those topics. And I'm going to give you an example of one here in Zach that we're going to talk about, but let me get through a couple different points on here. So if I forget, remind me to talk about customer retention, because I was with Doreen yesterday. We were doing one where we were working on setting goals and stuff like that. And customer retention was a big thing. So I want to talk about that. But with the Matrix, you're going to have access, obviously, to mentorship, coaching. We're going to have people like Josh from Gold Medal Pools on. We'll have Doreen. We'll have people that'll do marketing, all that kind of stuff. You're going to have access to quarterly Zoom meetings. The big thing that you do need to understand is that there is going to be homework, that there is work that you have to do in order to do this. An example, first one is going to be teach you how to set goals properly using the SMART method. And you have to set 2 goals. And when you come in, you're going to set a personal and you're going to set a company or a team goal, right? So we're going to hold you accountable for those 2 goals through the program. So we'll have quarterly meetings where we'll be doing stuff. Obviously, we have a software that you'll be using, the Peak Planner, so that you can set your goals, the tasks, all that to make sure that you're doing that. And then we're going to have some special resources of training videos and business tools that'll be available only to the people that are part of this group. So an example, Zach, kind of going back to some of the things that we were talking about yesterday as Doreen and I were going through and prepping for the first one that we're going to do, is we start talking about what are some of the goals that companies need to set? And a lot of it tends to go right off the bat towards the personal side, right? Like I need to be a better boss, or I need to hold people more accountable, or people tend to look at themselves and try to figure out what things they need to improve themselves. But there's also a business aspect to it. And as we started creating some of these example goals, because some of it is like, let's create a couple of examples so people could use, we went with one that I think most people are going to default to, and that's finances, right? Like they want to either pick up more pools or make more money. Everybody always wants to do that. And here's the interesting thing. As we got into that and we're doing the sample goals and going through and prepping for that first training that we're going to be doing January 18th, one of them was like, okay, let's do it simple. I want to pick up more revenue or pick up 20 more customers, whatever it is. And we start going through those steps. One of the things that comes out in creating those steps is what things do you have to do not only to pick up the customers, but then more importantly, let's talk about customer retention.
Yeah.
right? Because the challenge is we go out, we pick up 20 pools, but then we turn around and we lose 15. And we're so focused on the picking up more pools and managing all these other things that we don't worry about customer retention. And if you don't worry about customer retention, then you're on this vicious cycle of just you're not scaling, right?
Chase.
Like,
Yeah.
man, I got 200 pools and I can't grow more than 200 pools, but why? So through this process of setting the business goals and stuff like that, as you go through the exercise, you're going to see what some of the steps are that feed into the next one. And we will go into that customer retention. And we'll talk about it today with a KPI that you have to really track that. But even talking to her yesterday, we were supposed to have a 30-minute get together. We were at it for like an hour and a half. And we were setting up these templates. And I was completely geeking out, going, oh my God, here's a KPI. And here's the steps for this, and here's the goal, and it has to be measurable and all that. So when you do this business matrix, the first step is going to be January 18th. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a class on SMART goals, because there's a method to the madness of creating goals. It's not just create a goal step. That's not the way that you set goals, right? You create the goal, you have the step, but that step has to be measurable. And not only does it have to be measurable, but the output of that step has to be a learning step into what it is that you're doing. Because other than that, you're just checking off boxes.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that'll be January 18th. And then in March, Zach, we're going to start to go into financials, really starting to do and talk about one of the things that we're going to talk about today, which is key performance indicators. So KPIs, what are the things that financially you should be looking at to make sure that your business is okay? And then in June, what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring the software where all these people will actually have to plug in all their numbers. And so what's going to happen is we're going to go through all the KPIs. We're going to learn what all those KPIs are. And in the next class, what's going to happen is you're going to plug those in. And some of the KPIs will be some of the things that we're going to talk about on the podcast. So stay listening to the podcast, because we are going to talk about some of those KPIs. And then what will happen, Zach, is that'll be June. And then in September, we will start to get into kind of the employee life cycle. So the first 6 months will be all towards the business side. The second 6 months will be geared more into your talent, your team, all that. And then we will finish the year at the PSP Expo in Las Vegas, where we will have some separate training for just the people of the Matrix. And these are going to be classes that are going to be a little bit longer, but they're going to be a lot more in depth. And there's going to be, like I keep telling people, there's going to be homework. There's going to be work that has to be done, because the goal is to get you to succeed and put that into play.
I'm super pumped about this. And there are so many tools and opportunities involved in this, that this is for the people that are wanting to turn their business into that literal machine, like Eugene talked about in the past. And homework, the point of the group is to hold everyone accountable, and don't look at it as homework, look at it as working on your business, because that's what's going to be going on. You're going to be spending this time, you're going to be working on your business as you're going through the process, and then you're going to be surrounded by other individuals that are doing the same thing. They have the same passion, motivation, and so on. But they're, like Edgar said, starting with goals, there's a science to it to make sure that you're actually maximizing and achieving your goals. Really looking forward to it. If you're ready to challenge yourself, if you're ready to take your business to the next level, go to poolnation.com, go to the Pool Nation Business Matrix page, get registered. And like Edgar said, we're kicking it off in January. So don't wait, get signed up.
Yep. So stuff will start to go out next week. We already got some handouts that are going to be going out. We got some videos that are going to be going out. You register, you'll be included into the Poolman University, and you'll have access to your complete separate login where you'll have access to all these resources and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, Mr. Zacharias, it's already December. I remember the last December when we said, and normally in December, we're like, okay, business focus, right? This is our downtime. This is the time where we work on the business. And last time we did a 4-part series, and then John was out this week. So you and I are like, what are we going to talk about? Finances. John always brings a little bit of a balance. If you let me and Zach, will talk finances every single podcast, and nobody will ever listen.
Now's the time to talk about it, right? Finances are slowing down a little bit through Christmas and cold. And
now that John's gone, let's talk numbers. Let's talk numbers. So what I want to do today, Zach, is talk about key performance indicators. And those are the KPIs. And those are the things that financially, it doesn't have to be financially, but we're going to talk about financial ones that you're going to want to check and follow to make sure that your business is financially doing well. And Zach and I went back and forth on this because I think there's two types of KPIs when it comes to the finances, Zach. I think there's the general KPIs, right? Which is profit and profit percentage. It's the overall business side of it. And then there's some that are a little bit more specific to our industry, to what we do, right? And everybody has different KPIs. So let me give everybody a quick example, Zach. If we look at KPIs that are a little bit more specific to each business. So if I'm in hotels, of course, I'm looking at profit. Of course, I'm looking at profit percentage. I'm looking at the overall business. But within that overall business, there's other KPIs that I need to look at. And so in hotels, we look at room rate per room. You might have 100 rooms. You'll get what your average rate was for that night. So let's say that you've sold 50 rooms and you sold them at $100. Your average rate is $100. But when you look at hotels, you have to pay mortgage on all 100 rooms. You don't pay mortgage on just the rooms that you sell. So there's also something that we look at that's called RevPAR, which is revenue per available room. So if you look at it and I sold those same rooms, my actual RevPAR was actually $50 because my average rate was 100. But if I take that and divide it by the 100 rooms that I have to pay a mortgage on, my RevPAR is $50, right? So each business, each industry is going to have their regular KPIs, which is going to be the profit percentage, all that kind of stuff. But then each one of them is going to have some that are specific to them. So for our industry, those are the ones that I want to talk about today, Zach, which are going to be a little bit more of the cost per pool and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe next week on the next podcast, Zach, what we do is we talk about those KPIs that are a little bit more specific to the general business, but want to talk today about ones that are a little bit more niche to us.
Yeah. And for those of you listening that may not know, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator, which is, in simple terms is just metrics. There's a book, and it's called How to Measure Everything. And so when you think about it, there are, like Edgar is saying, there are ones that are specific to industry and what service you're providing or product you're selling. There's ones that are general to businesses in general. And the reality is that if you found a way to measure something, you could consider it a KPI if you can measure it and track it. And to be successful in business, there are a lot of metrics that we need to be tracking and monitoring in order to have a true understanding of how our businesses are performing. And I was thinking about it. I used an analogy in the past, and you probably remember it. And I learned this from somewhere else, but it was about gauges in an airplane. If you think about it and you're flying an airplane without gauges or any indicators that told you the important things like what direction you're flying in, your altitude, how much fuel you have left, you probably have a very slim chance of making it to your destination.
Making it alive.
Yeah, and making it alive. And if you think about it, you could see examples of this everywhere. You see it in vehicles, you see it in sports, right? They are monitoring time left in a quarter, touchdown, stats, yards. In any sport, they have all that. You're investing. There's some sort of metric to go off of. And business is no different. Our small businesses are no different. It is a very important component of successfully running our businesses. So when we talk about financial KPIs, we're talking about the critical financial metrics related to running our businesses in the pool industry. And it just allows us to be able to evaluate our financial performance and our operational efficiency. When you track these metrics, you'll start identifying trends and eventually be making decisions on real data. And I want to talk about that for a minute, because I went through this when we started the company. Everything lived in my head, and we'll probably talk about this more as we go through it. And so a lot of times I was making decisions based on my current assumptions rather than the real data. And I have several people around me that would say, I would say, we need to start marketing, going back to your customer retention example. We need to start marketing and we need to pick up more accounts and we should be growing crazier and crazier. And they'd say, well, how many accounts have you picked up in the last X amount of time, quarter or month or year or whatever? And I would, oh, not many, like 5. The reality was, once I got off that conversation and sat down, I'm like, dang, we've picked up like 30 customers, but we're not 30 customers ahead. Maybe I need to look at what's going on with our customer retention, because it seems like we're losing them as fast as we're picking up. So I guess the point is, rather than dumping a bunch of money in marketing and acquisition and things like that, it forced me to make a smart decision of focusing those time and resources into improving our service and our customer retention. And one thing is, our industry has seasonal fluctuations. We were just talking about how cold it is,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
We have slimmer margins at times, depending on how busy we are. So financial KPIs for us are important, that we're tracking them and always aware of the current financial health of our companies. And one example would be understanding like your break even point. You need to know the minimum revenue to cover your expenses. We've talked about this so many times. You
Over
need
and
to know
over.
the
Yeah.
minimum revenue you need to cover your expenses each month, so you know what to expect in the slower months. And monitoring cash flow, that also helps prepare for slower months. So the point is, tracking KPIs will help you with all of these things.
And here's the sad part, Zach, when you talk about it and you talk about the seasonality of it, what ends up happening, and I saw it, man, through the end of COVID. I've seen it different times where companies either grew too fast, they didn't have things in place, then things slowed down and they weren't doing enough repairs or enough extra jobs to be able to cover the payroll. So you're starting to run short on cash. I saw businesses having to sell. Yeah, I'm not talking builders. I'm talking pool service companies that didn't have an option because during the summertime, they were slammed, they were busy, they added the bodies. Then the wintertime came, all the repairs stopped, all the extra work stopped. And then all of a sudden, they're having a hard time covering payroll. And those companies were either having to sell, or they were either having to let people go, or some of them tried to just stay and muscle through it. And then what ended up happening is they ended up going out of business. It's really important that you measure all those things. You can't go off of just an assumption. You can't go through, because I have money in the bank, I'm doing good. There's no worse feeling as a business owner to be stressed to cover payroll. There's no worse feeling, because you as a business owner will say, I just won't take a salary, but you have to pay your employees. And that the amount of stress that comes from that is huge. Unless you know your numbers, some of these KPIs, you're not able to manage that and stay ahead of it.
Yeah, let's unpack that a little bit further. What we're talking about is always having your finger on the pulse, because there's always going to be these unforeseen things that jump out at you. And when we look at the COVID years, like you were talking about, we had these crazy highs and it was like winners weren't winners. We
Didn't have a winner.
We were winners in winter, like no matter what.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Winners in winter.
I want to touch on when we had Josh Sandler on. It's something important that he talked about and really put it in a perspective for me, is that he used the analogy of a car, right? When you're driving the car, you're looking out the windshield, you're making sure you're on the road, you're avoiding collisions and making sure that you get to your destination. And periodically you're checking on your rearview mirror to make sure you aren't about to get slammed from behind. Having metrics is essentially doing the same thing. There's forward-looking metrics. There's metrics that look at the past and help you identify these trends so that when you do go into a slower month, like you're prepared for it, right? I know in December, we are always going to dip. Pre-COVID, I knew I could draw you a line chart of exactly what the year was going to look like revenue-wise, where the spikes were going to be, where the lulls were going to be. October, there was always this weird, odd spike that we would get year after year. And that just came from tracking these things and being able to identify these trends. And that helped me predict the future. And then over time, things change. So you can't just figure it out once and let it sit. You've got to keep going and looking at these things. Bottom line is, with the right financial KPIs in place, like you could build a solid foundation and use that data to streamline your business, become stable, become profitable, and hopefully grow.
Yeah. You can KPI to death too, right? Like you can create all these things that you're going to look at, all these things that you need to look at, and you can go nuts. You can have so many, Zach, then you don't look at any of them. And it's just like everything else, unless you're truly using certain ones and implementing them and looking at the data, it's really not going to do you any good. So I think that it's really important when you start to look at this dashboard or these gauges, whatever you want to call them, to figure out how your business is doing, is that when you start, don't go and put 15 of them in place. Don't say these are the 15 things that I'm going to look at every month, especially if you are a one puller, especially if you have one employee, that you still have to do a lot of things. Because what happens is we get excited about monitoring all these stuff. They put them all into place, but then what happens is they create a lot of work that's unsustainable. Like you can't sustain the work. And a lot of these things you have to have either the time or some extra people on your team to be able to monitor some of these.
Yeah. And there are a lot of cool KPIs, like as we get into it and as you look at it. And I've learned about tons of them and trailing 12-month KPIs, and there's ratios and all these things. But I did make that mistake of trying to track all these things. And a lot of times the data is hard to mine, it's hard to put together. It's time consuming. So you might be motivated at the beginning and you start putting these things in place and you're on it, and then you slowly start to fall off. And then at the end of the day, it's serving no purpose for you. So I think the goal is, and it's funny because this ties into goal setting perfectly, like you were talking about, is it start small, start simple with something that's meaningful. And then once you start to perfect that and make it a consistent habit, then add on the next one.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So just as you're going through these, just try to figure out which ones are going to be the ones that you could do the easier ones to track, right? And I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You might be able to figure out what your cost per pool is a lot easier than figuring out what your cost of chemical per pool is. So I'll talk about the difference. And Zach, I'll let you talk about the cost per pool here in a second. But if you talk of a cost per pool, it's easier because you're just looking at your overall expenses, right? So it's easier to do the mathematical equation to get to it. When you start talking about cost of chemicals per pool, you now need to make sure that you're tracking everything that you add to every single pool. If you have 100 pools, you're looking at 100 pools individually, right? So just thinking about that, think about how much work you've now added. I have to now look at 100 pools every single month to figure out what the cost of chemicals per each one of them is. So there's ones that you will implement that'll be easier to implement. And then as you get proficient at them, then what you do is you really start going deeper and fine tuning. And there's a big misconception, Zach, with a lot of the pool pros that I talk to, that they're always like, I want to figure out what my cost of chemical per pool is. And yes, there's an opportunity to do that. And yes, you should do that as you get bigger and you have a team and you have all that. In the meantime, what you could do is you can look at the average, which really takes more into account the chemicals that you're buying versus what you're adding to the pool. And it gives you a little bit of a gauge. Once you master that, then you move to the next one. So, Zach, I'm going to let you start and have you start talking about one of the first metrics that is niche to our industry, and that's the cost per pool.
Yeah. So the first one on our list today is cost per pool. And this KPI measures how much it costs to service a single pool, including your labor, your chemicals, your fuel, and other overhead costs. And I have an example here. If your cost per pool is $60, but you're charging $55, you're losing $5 per pool. So knowing what your cost per pool is allows you to adjust your pricing to ensure profitability. And this is a big one that a lot of people struggle with because it does take some time and some work to sit down and figure out what all the costs are that really go into servicing a pool. And oftentimes in the beginning, we tend to overlook, again, because we're operating off assumptions and everything's living in our head, right? So we tend to overlook or aren't fully aware of or thinking about some of the costs that we're incurring to provide this service. So we end up not charging enough. And this is something that we experienced this, all these things, we've experienced this. And it took us years and years of wondering, why are we always broke? We're always broke. We're doing all this work. We're always broke. And it finally, at one point, I sat down and I truly dove into trying to figure this out. And once you start growing, you end up adding more things into your business that go into being able to grow the company and still provide a quality service. So you have to periodically reevaluate this because there's going to be other elements or things you sign up for or services you use that help you be able to deliver that service to your customer. And I think a prime example would be, you're doing handwritten work orders, and then someday you move into having a software to manage your route. Now that is a cost that goes into servicing that pool. It's really important. We did the same thing you talked about. We worked in averages for a long time because the reality was I just needed to get some sort of baseline.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that we need to understand is when there is a cost per pool and you're doing repairs and you're doing other things, I think the most important part is to really figure out truly how much does it cost for you to service that pool. So you have to take repairs out of it. You have to take filters out of it. You have to take whatever extra charges that you add to that you get out of that pool. You need to take it out, right? So you can't grab your numbers and go, oh, just because I made an extra $3,000 in repairs, that means that my cost is going to be less because I made more money. No, you need to truly know what it takes for you to get into your truck, drive over to that pool, drop the net, drop the vac, add chems, clean, and leave. Because here's one of the biggest challenges that we have. When people start in the industry, they just go off of what other people are charging. They don't look at what their expenses are and what their business needs to survive. So that's one of the first mistakes that we make. The second mistake that we make, Zach, is that we go into business thinking Zach is charging $100, I'm going to charge 80, and I'm going to take over all the customers. And I'm going to tell you that does not work. Lowering your rates does not guarantee that you're going to take over the competition. If that was the case, only businesses charging the least amount of money would be in business. So if I was a phone maker, Apple would be out of business, Samsung would be out of business, because I can make a phone that's a lot cheaper and automatically everybody's going to buy it. No, that is not the case. So when you start as a business, the very first thing that you need to figure out is what it truly costs you to show up and clean a pool. And here's a mathematical equation, Zach, that's very easy to do. Let's say that I only have 10 pools and I don't have a truck payment. My cost is going to be a lot less than Edgar starting in the business and now having a truck payment at $1,000 and I only have 10 pools. I have to pay that truck. That $1,000 has got to come out of the pools. So the guy that doesn't have a truck payment is going to have a less cost per pool than the guy that has a truck payment of $1,000. So you need to take into account all your expenses in order to be able to figure out what your cost per pool is. But by the time that you show up and you tell that customer what you're going to charge them, you need to know in the back of your brain what the cost of your service is, especially if you're in an area where customers are going, oh, can you give me a discount? Or, oh, can you give me this? Or, oh, can you give me that? You need to know exactly where you need to be. And it will really change the way that you do business.
Yeah, there's a pitfall that a lot of people fall into, and we've seen it happen, is that they're not monitoring that. So when you think of pool cleaning service and pool repair service, you find when you dig into it that it seems like everything's good, but the pool cleaning service is bleeding the repair service. And once you start to understand these things, you start to treat it like you've always talked about as micro businesses. You have your pool cleaning service. What are its costs? What are its revenues? Is it profitable? And then you have your repair business. What are its costs? What are its revenue? And is it repairable? So this is something that you need to, like Edgar was saying, separate out and not factor those one-off things that are in addition to service.
Yep. For those that are going to be part of the matrix, as we go through this program, all that will be broken out. And when you plug in all your numbers into the software, it'll separate repairs versus all your other expenses and revenue to be able to tell you what your true cost of service is. I think the next one to look at, Zach, that is important is kind of your profit per pool. And this is one that's important. I'm going to tell you why. So if you know what your cost per pool is, and you figure out what your profit per pool is, it really gives you a really clear picture. It doesn't give you a clearer picture than what your revenue and what your profit is going to be. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have 100 pools, and here I'll do my math because we don't have John to throw the numbers at, but right, John's really good at. John, do the math for me. And he just spits it out as fast as I could type it in the calculator. But let's say that you have 100 pools and that your profit is $30 at the end of the month per pool, right? Now you know that you're making $3,000. So if you know what your profit per pool is, it's easy. Just multiply how many pools you have and boom, there's your profit. That's how much money you're going to make. So if I look at it and I go, I got 100 pools and my profit is $30, I'm making $3,000. But what happens if all of a sudden you look at that and you go, I have 100 pools and I only make $10 per profit. Now you're like, oh man, it's only $1,000 now, right? Automatically, your mind starts thinking from the business sense and starts going, I need to improve this number. I need to make my profit per pool better. So what am I going to do in order to achieve that? And so then your mind starts thinking, as soon as you go quote another rate, in the back of your head, it's going to be, man, I quote them at $100, but I want to be at $50 profit per pool. So now it's $120. And here's what's going to happen automatically, Zach, is when you know what that number is and you walk into that backyard, automatically your brain and your sales pitch is going to become a $120 sales pitch, not a $100 sales pitch.
Because you're confident in knowing what you need. And the thing is, like, my web guy, Robert, checked me on this. I talked about lowering prices at one point, and we did the math, and it was like we'd have to have like 40 more pools on route than what we currently have to make the same money. And it was like, wait a minute. Nope. Like, I got all the confidence that I needed to be right where we are. So it's really important. And if you don't know what your profit per pool is, you'll have pools that are, again, bleeding out your other pools. Because when you, even in terms of a $30 profit, let's talk about a callback, overusing chemicals, adding a specialty chemical to the water and just being like, oh, like, I'm not going to charge them for that, and dumping it in, taking longer on a job because they have half a tree that has blown into the pool, just whatever it is. There's like 1,000 things that could go wrong, and you have to be planning for some problems to occur. And if you're leaving yourself on razor thin margins, like, you're not going to be 100% on point successful every visit. And that's where a lot of people find themselves getting in trouble or feeling like me and Justin were like, why are we always broke?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Zach, let's do this. Let's take a word from our sponsors. When we come back, I want to jump into the next one, which is a big one for me, but we'll share that when we come back. We'll be right back.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision-crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add reoccurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
AquaStar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. We're talking to Mr. Zacharias. John is out today at the AquaStar event. Zach, we got a lot of exciting stuff that we didn't talk about. We got new sponsors coming out in 2025 that we haven't talked about. We got some new stuff that we're rolling out. We got our schedule that we're rolling out. We got the one event that you guys are not letting me talk about for next year that I have to keep shush until the end of the year. Like, I'm fired up.
When you want to talk about it.
Damn. John's not here. He'll let us spill the tea, right?
Right.
So we should call him and get permission to spill the tea onto what we want to do for next year. He's going to be like, hell no. So if you charge for filters separately, do you factor that in as part of repair or part of service? I do service, but kids see since it's a standard reoccurring as the service invoice. So here's what I recommend to everybody. Hey, filter clean. So David, I'm going to answer that right now. Our boy Todd, Ripple Effect Pool Service, a big shout out to you. I do want to tell you something, Todd, that I thought was hilarious. So when Todd was leaving California and he was going over to Arizona, he was going through some business names and kind of stuff like that. And we talked through it. And Todd, you should give me a call. We haven't touched base in a little while. Would love to catch up with you and see how you're doing out there. And so obviously like Ripple Effect was one of the names that came out. And so he went with Ripple Effect Pool Service. And I like it from the pool standpoint, right? You get that ripple effect, that shine. So Todd, when we were doing the name for the business matrix that came up, the Ripple Effect came into the equation as one of the business. And I don't remember how, and it sounded good. It was something Ripple Effect something and stuff like that. And I'm like, nope, we can't do that. Todd's business is called Ripple Effect.
You get a nice letter in the mail from an attorney.
From his attorney. Todd will be sending me a cease and desist letter going, Edgar, you need to stop using the name Ripple Effect. So anyways, Todd, we're always thinking about your brother. Hope you're doing good out there. So David, coming back to your conversation. So what happens, this could be a twofold. It's a little bit probably crazier for Zach, and I'll let Zach talk to his point from it. But when I did pools, I charge for filters separate. And when we teach our financial business class, we teach you that is part of a separate micro business, right? Because that filter clean has nothing to do with your tech or your employee going out to clean a pool. That is added revenue that comes in as part of you servicing that pool. So when you're considering your numbers in there, I wouldn't consider that part of my service because I'm charging for it separately. Now, Zac, for you that you do include doing good, I got a Todd doing good and kicking ass. I'll give you a call one of these days soon. Bro, you better call me sooner than later. That I'll give you a call one of these days sounded like, when I get a chance. So anyways, just messing with you, brother. Ain't got nothing but love for you out there. So Zac, what would be your recommendation?
For our model where we do an all-inclusive service, which includes the filter cleans, we average it out and factor the cost of the filter clean, the labor, the time it takes and everything in an average so that we know, because the filter clean is averaged over a monthly basis. But we are making some awesome changes in our business because as we've grown, there are things we need to do, but that would be a whole nother podcast in itself. But yes, for the all-inclusive people out there, because I know there's several, and the way we do it is based on averages.
Yeah. So you can look at it either one. So if you do the model where you include it in the rate, you can include it in there. You have to take that in consideration as you're looking at your numbers, that there's a little bit of added revenue in there that belongs to the filter service. Like Zac was saying, you can also have an average, and what you could do is you could mathematically take that out if you wanted to get a clear picture. But really what my recommendation to you is, if you're looking at something, pick how you're going to do it and then always look at the numbers the same way. That way you're always looking at everything evenly. Don't change this month and go, oh, I'll take it into consideration this month, and then next month I won't deduct it, and next month, because then you can't look at the law of averages. And the idea is to look at the average 12 months so that you can see where the spikes are coming in and out of. But David, in the class that we do, we talk about different micro businesses. We talk about different revenue opportunities and how you need to think of your filter cleans almost as a little bit of a separate business, right? And then whatever extras you do, let's say that you do Deco Seal, then Deco Seal can be a little bit of a separate business for your business. And then what you do is you yearly track the revenue for those to make sure that you're getting the most dollar out of that backyard. One of the other KPIs is cost of customer lifetime. We'll kind of get into that. I don't want to kind of confuse you. I don't want to do that. But there's other KPIs, David, that as you get comfortable with what it is that you're doing, then you start to dive a little bit deeper. And it's like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. So Zac, let's talk about the next one.
Yeah. So the next one we have is revenue per employee. And this metric really tracks how much revenue each employee is generating for your business. And an example would be if you have one employee and they're servicing 50 pools per month at $100 per pool, they're generating $5,000 in revenue for the business. Now, if their payroll or they have expenses associated with them that are exceeding that, you're scared you're going to lose them, so you're paying them more, and you're paying them, say, $6,000 a month, then they're not generating any revenue for the business. And so that would be time to sit down, reassess things. And it could be that they're being inefficient. It could be that maybe your pricing isn't right, but that's the indicator that would tell you it's time to look at it. And as much as we want to create careers and have a great place to work, we need to be generating revenue. And we create jobs so that people have work that they can get paid for and they can make money for the company. And if we don't know whether or not they're generating revenue or they're just costing the company money, then we could be bleeding money, and we want to watch out for that.
This was always big for me, especially as I started to add employees. I had an idea of how many pools they needed to do, how much revenue that was bringing. And then it gives you a little bit of information that's very easy for you to do. And that is, let's say that you've got 50 pools, $100, $5,000, but this person over here only has 45. Then you'll know right away that person has a potential for those 5 other customers that you're going to be able to add to it. And so you really have to have a good finger on the pulse of how much revenue each employee is going to bring in. And then you can even get in deeper, which I wouldn't recommend that you do at the beginning, but down the road, you grow, you have people in the office, you have admins, you have people doing your bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff. You really could segregate those routes and look at the profit per route too, right? Because you could take into consideration chemical costs and all that. I don't recommend that you do that right at the beginning because it's one of those where You start going down that rabbit hole, Zach, and you'll get lost 1 month. And then you just get frustrated because there's so much work that you don't go down that rabbit hole. So there's one that I want to talk about, and I talked about it a little bit. This was one of my kind of pet peeves, and that is the customer retention rate, because, you get to a point where you're trying to scale and you go, gosh, why am I not scaling, right? I made it to 200 pools or 300 pools or whatever amount of pools it was, but man, I can't go past that. Why can't I go past that? And it's all going to boil down to one thing, Zach. It's all going to boil down to that customer retention. If you can't retain customers, you'll be able to scale, but not at the pace that you want to scale. And the problem with this KPI, Zach, is I call this a bad news KPI, because people don't like to hear bad news. People don't like to be told what things they're doing wrong. But this KPI is something that if it's low, it tells you that you're doing something wrong, and you have to figure out what that is. And you have to figure out why your customers are leaving, why they're not happy. And then more importantly, what are you going to do to be able to reverse that? Because unless you reverse that, you're just going to stay in that constant hamster wheel of however many amount of pools that you have. And it's a lot of work. You have to go ask customers. You have to create forms when they're leaving to find out why. You have to go back and train your employees. If it's an employee issue, it'll be able to track down, gosh, maybe it's one of your employees that's losing a lot of pools and you're not doing anything about it, but it forces you to have to look back and look at one of these things. And I think this is an important KPI that you should start putting into play when you're a small company, so that when you're big, you have it figured out.
It makes you ask a lot of questions. And I know that you've heard me on the phone ranting and all these different times about picking up more. And it's, you said, you can pick them up just as fast, but you can lose them just as fast. And we really sat down and we were looking at it, at our retention, and it prompted us to start asking, okay, anytime someone cancels, whether through email or on the phone, we need to find out why. And with everything with the economy and COVID and all this stuff, we're a premium price provider. And I feel like we provide a good service, but that's an assumption, right? That's my perception, but what's our customer's perception? So we were looking at all the pools we lost, and was it budget? Are we priced too high? And if it's budget, is it truly that we're priced too high, or is it that we're not giving a quality enough service for the value? And so this is just one of those metrics that once you start looking at this and tracking it, it will really prompt you to start looking at all these different areas of, if you have an opportunity to maybe not spend but maybe you're getting a bunch of word of mouth, people are seeing your truck and you are getting enough calls that if you just retained 15% more customers, like, it would make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. David is saying the truth hurts, but it also sets you free. And here's the thing, man, it's not always easy to take negative feedback, but it's just all about the perception and how you accustom yourself to take that feedback. And early in my career, I wasn't good at taking feedback. And I remember somebody telling me that I wasn't good at taking constructive feedback. And I consciously made it to change the way that I think. So you'll hear me a lot, Zach, where I'll go in, we'll have an event or we'll do something. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
come and give me the feedback. Tell me what we could do better. And be like, oh, we did. I'm like, I don't want to hear what we did well. Don't tell me what we did well. I don't want to know what we did well. I want to focus on the things that we need to fix, that we need to make better. And it just became the way of the thought process. And then it just changes the way that you think. So when you're talking to customers, I know it's not easy, but if you are going to have a customer that's going to leave you, be honest with them and say, hey, I really apologize that we couldn't meet your standards. Would you be willing to give me some honest feedback? I want to better my business. So please tell me what we could do better. And you have to be, like David said, is going to set you free, because, man, it's going to solve your problem. It's going to tell you what you need to fix. So I could sit here and go, no, man, we're the best at customer service in the world. And they're like, nope, your pool techs are rude as all get out. And you're like, man, they're great guys in the office. But if they're not good with customers, they're not good with customers. You're going to be forced to have to deal with that. I think this is one of my favorite KPIs because it's something that we don't look at until you get to that part where you're just going through that hamster wheel if you don't have this figured out from the beginning.
Yeah. The next one on our list is chemical usage cost per pool. And this measures the average cost of chems used per pool. And it helps you really recognize whether you are overusing or wasting chemicals in the pool. And so an example of this would be if your chemical cost per pool was $10, but you're charging a flat rate of $8 for chemicals, obviously you're losing money. And this helps you A, track your usage and look at that, or B, check out your pricing and see if it's appropriate for what you're doing. It's a very important metric, very straightforward. And this for us is, and for those of you that have technicians, or if you're getting to the point where you're looking to hire technicians, this can quickly get out of hand. This can be an area. Yeah, it's an area that you don't really think about all the time, or at least I don't, and I probably should more. But it's like, Edgar, you talked about the $30 profit in your previous example. And if you have a tech that's just pouring a little extra chlorine in every pool or adding algicide just because, that $30 will just go away in a flash.
Quick.
And then let's compound it, right? If you have that going on for, say, 2 months on a route with 50 pools, if you're not monitoring that, like, it'll catch you off guard.
Yeah, no,
You'll
absolutely.
find out.
And here's one of those that you have to be very careful with these at the beginning. So let's say that you're just starting, you really aren't tracking a lot of things, you really don't have your financials down really well. This is one of those that if you track, you will go down the rabbit hole. And if you pick this one as your first one, you're very quickly going to learn how difficult it is to have to track this one here, because there's a couple of different ways that you could look at your chemical cost per pool, right? And a lot of pool guys, pool pros that I talk to, they always say, I need to know what my cost per pool is. But here's the challenge, is in order to do this, you need to either have an app that is going to allow you to track your chemicals, B, a binder where you can write everything down and then manually do it. C, you're going to have to make sure that your techs are truly entering the right amount of data. And here's why, is you get one of your service techs that just goes in and just says that he puts in a gallon of chlorine and a quarter of acid in every single pool, your data is not going to be accurate. So there's a lot of moving parts. So what I always recommend for people that are starting in their businesses and they want to track what their chemical usage is that what you do is you start with the average, and what you do is you focus on what your business is buying, okay? I hope I don't confuse everybody, Zach. So if I start to confuse people, let me know. Here's what happens with the cost per pool, right? The chemical usage per pool is when you buy a bucket of tabs, your business doesn't give a crap whether you use 2 tabs or 50 tabs. You just bought a bucket of tabs, right? So that's an expense. You bought it, and the business doesn't care if you use 50 this month and 50 the next month. It's not going to say, oh, just pay me this month half and the next month half. You're going to take it all in 1 month, right? So what happens is, what you can do is you could do an average of the chemicals that you're buying every month, and then you can have that average, and every month you can look at what chemicals are being bought and what chemicals are being used. So you would use an average, right, to be able to look at that chemical expense, and every month you'd be able to look at that. That will give you a starting point, and that's easier because if you bought 3 buckets of tabs and 2 cases of chlorine, you could divide that into your pools, into the number of pools, and then it gives you an average. Use that as a base point. As you grow, as you start to add apps like Pool Brain or any of that kind of stuff that uses an app to be able to track the chemicals, then you'll be able to start to track specifically what your cost per pool is. But there's still 2 things that I'm going to talk about here on this one. A, if you're truly tracking your chemical cost per pool, you have to train your employees to make sure that they're giving you the right information, because garbage in and garbage out, right? If your employees are just putting numbers in there to just put numbers in there, it ain't going to be any good for you. And then number 2, if you are going to make your employees enter the information and you're not going to train them properly on how to do it and why the importance of it, and you're not going to look at the data, And then one month you're going to decide that you're going to go down this rabbit hole, it's not going to do you any good because you need to look at it every single month. And by just doing it one month isn't going to do you any good because if all of a sudden you look at January, hey, your chemical expenses are going to be a hell of a lot less than they are in June and July and August. So you have to compare every single month so that every year you can compare June to June, not June to January, right? And here's the thing that I will tell you guys and girls out there, and that is do not do work to do it if you're not going to use the data. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's not going to do you any good. It's not going to do any of your employees any good. And it's just going to make you frustrated at your business. So only do the work to those things that you're going to track, that you're going to follow, and that you're going to use.
I love averages. They may not be the most 100% dialed in, but it's manageable, it's doable, it makes sense. I use them all the time. And when looking at any data, like you've got to look at it like 6 different ways. When we're looking at our financial statements or whatever, or let's say average costs, like I'll look at year, I'll look at Q1, I'll look at monthly and like compare, and you'll get different data out of those things, but then you start to combine it into your overall picture, I guess. So I don't think there's anything wrong with averages. And then as you grow, the thing is you bring more people onto the team and then more people have those responsibilities to where they can then pull that
there
data.
You go.
So
bingo, gold right there. You just dropped some gold, right? It's you have to have the people to be able to help you with those things because it's very time consuming. Mr. Zacharias, I think we need to leave some of these other ones for the following podcast. What do you think?
One more.
No? One more?
We're going to skip to 7.
Oh,
because you mentioned
is a good
earlier.
one. 7 is a good one. Take it.
All right, skipping to number 7, we have average customer lifetime value, which Edgar was talking about earlier, the maintenance versus the additional repairs. Like this is one way to look at that. So this KPI helps you understand how much revenue a single customer brings to your business over their lifetime with you. And an example would be if your customer stays with you for 5 years and spends $1,200 a year, their customer lifetime value would be $6,000. And this will help you budget for marketing, customer acquisition costs, because there is a significant cost to acquiring customers. And this is one that surprises me. I love looking at this one because I might have a customer and they're a little tricky to work with, but manageable. And I'll think, man, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like maybe we should look at dropping them. And then I'll look at their lifetime value and I'm like, oh, they spent $15,000 in the last 36 months. Maybe we can tolerate it a little bit more. And on the flip side, you might find a customer that is like a real pain point for you and they don't spend any money in comparison to what your average customer lifetime value is. One thing you can do with this too is it helps you understand turn and how much money you can make in like a turnover rate. And then when you know this, you can prepare for that customer turnover as they near the end of their life cycle. And then you can find ways to increase their lifetime value, which may tie into retention and how can we keep them, move them from 4.5 years to 5 years or 5.5 years. Like what other areas can we focus on or what other things can we do to increase their lifetime value? Hopefully that made sense.
Absolutely. And this is a big one, especially when we start talking about the things about those micro businesses and the other things that you need to charge for. And one of the biggest mistakes that I think we do as pool pros at the beginning is we always just focus on the rate. We just always focus on what we're charging for service. And there's so many other things that are added into that lifetime value, right? So it's filter cleans you have to add to that lifetime value. There's the deco seal, whether you do bead blasting, whether you do repairs. As you start to track these, you start to know exactly what that number is for that customer. So this is one that's really huge that you need to track and that you need to make sure that as you're setting it up, you're looking at all those other micro businesses and making sure that you're adding that to the lifetime value of the customer, right? Because if you aren't doing the filter services on time, if you aren't doing the repairs on time or letting somebody else do that, that value of that customer drops. And that's not what you want. You want that lifetime value to continue to grow because it's not just about the service rate. It's about all those other extras that are in that backyard that you have to take care of that become revenue centers and increase the cost of that lifetime value.
I think what I was trying to spit out earlier too is with the customer acquisition piece. If you're a gym and you have members and you know that the average lifetime value of each member is $20,000 and they're there 5 years, then you could start to formulate how much you are willing to spend on your acquisition efforts on marketing or acquiring a customer. So those definitely go hand in hand.
100%. So, Mr. Zacharias, I think here's what I want to do on one of our next podcasts. So we talked about the key performance indicators, the things that we should track, the gauges, the targets, whatever we want to call them, that are really specific to our industry today. And I think what we'll do on the next podcast or the one after that, because I think we have one scheduled, is I think we talk about some of the general business key performance indicators that as an overall business you should be looking at. But I really wanted to start this way so people get an understanding of what some of the specific ones are for our industry.
Yeah, I think we definitely do, because it sounds crazy and complex, and it can be very crazy and complex. But I think for a lot of smaller businesses like us, there are some key KPIs that if you track those and stay on top of them, they will positively affect some of the other KPIs that you would be tracking.
Yeah, that we'll talk about. And I'm going to give everybody the key to success when it comes to financials. And everybody always says, we always fear because it's complicated and all that. But I'm going to give everybody here the key to success, Zach. I'm going to give them that one key that's going to unlock their business. You ready for it?
Yeah, I want that.
And you can tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. When it comes time to creating a profit and loss, when it comes time to learning about your financials, it's very easy to do. And I'm going to tell you how to do it. And that is that you have to track your expenses and you have to categorize your expenses. As long as you do that, all your data is sitting right there. So all you have to do is put a really good system in place to where you can track your expenses and at the end of the month, be able to look at your numbers. Here's the problem. We're very busy doing 90, 100 pools, managing employees. We always say we're going to get to that later. We're going to get to that later. We're going to get to that later. And then we don't. And then what happens is now I don't have the time to sit and all of a sudden go through the expenses for the last 6 months. And let's be realistic. Who the hell wants to do that? Right? The secret is if you find somebody to track your expenses and categorize them, you're done. All you have to do is just look at the data every single month. But as business owners, we always will do it later. We'll do it later. We'll do it later. And I'll share with everybody the journey of Pool Nation, right? And that is that we've been doing that on our own, right? Because we just were able to track those and all that kind of stuff. And then this year we sat down and we said, okay, now it's time to bring somebody on to be able to track those for us so that now that we've grown, we have time to spend that time doing other things for the business. And that happens to every single one of you in your journey. At the beginning, you might be able to do it when you only have 20 or 30 pools. When you start to get to 80 pools and you start to get busy, look, you need to find somebody and hire somebody that could do that for you so that you can spend that time doing something else. But more importantly, at the end of the month, you can say, can I get a list of all my expenses by category? And all you got to do is look at it. And look, people, it's simple. If they track the expenses for you and every single month you see a line item that says chemicals, and you see 100, 3,000, 300, 300, 300, there's a problem. And look at how easy it was to just go and look at it and go 100, 3,000, 300, 300. Wait a second, there's a problem here. Why is there 3,000, right? Now, if you're not tracking all of your expenses and putting them into place every single month and looking at them every single month, you're going to look at December and go, why are my chemicals way out of whack? I don't know. I never knew why it was.
Because someone accidentally put another order on the wrong account and you didn't catch it.
And look, and that's happened to me. I was at PWP and I showed up and I bought $600 worth of chemicals and I kept looking at my credit card statement and it was never charged. And I showed back up to PWP and I said, look, man, I love it that I didn't get charged for this $600, but somebody accidentally charged somebody else's
You're
account.
the guy that my account got charged the $600 for.
And then all of a sudden I went back and I'm like, here's my credit card. And they found who it was. And what happens is the last number on my account was transposed with a different account. And then they were charged, they corrected it. But that happens. So that guy all of a sudden wouldn't have known that he had got $600 worth of chem. So if I'm looking at it every month and every month I spend $300 and all of a sudden that month there's $900, I'm going to be like, wait, there's a problem. Where is it coming from? But guys, the key to the success is if you're not able to do it and you're not able to track them every month, hire somebody. It's going to cost you $200, $300, $400 to be able to do that. But what you're going to get out of that is a lot bigger.
Data is king and everything. And you got to spend money to make money. It's all about the ROI, right? If you could spend a few $100 and have that presented to you to where you can analyze it, identify things, and not have to sit there all night doing it randomly, and you could be out doing another $10,000 in repairs with that time. Well, it makes that $300 money well spent.
Completely worth it. Absolutely. Hey, Zach, let's take our final word from our sponsors. When we come back, John, Zach, I want to get your final thoughts. Oh, wait, John's not here. Zach, I want to get your final thoughts.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision-crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add reoccurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
AquaStar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. Sorry, Zach and I were goofing off. We're going through the commercials and we're doing chat and posting them all over the channel on here. And so we started goofing off and we got so carried away that it was ready to come back from commercials and we're still sitting there just chit-chatting and posting. So, Zach, you know that I love this podcast because this is where I geek out. I could talk numbers all day and just drive people crazy. It's what I'm passionate about when it comes to the business side, because we could be the best pool pros in the world. We could be the best repair guys in the world. But at the end of the day, if we're not good business people, we're not making as much money as we can, we're not going to be happy. So when it comes down to financials and going down these rabbit holes, I could do this all day. I know it drives John a little bit crazy, but hey, he's not here today, man.
Yeah, we got a free pass to just
numbers. When John hears that, he's going to call me and cuss at me.
I'm wondering, are they at Area 51? Like, now it's coming together. There's no phone communication.
No phone communication.
Did that bus have blacked out windows on it?
Let me see. You know what? I'm going to check here on Instagram really quick. There's nothing, huh? I wonder if AquaStar has put in blockers, jammers that they can't.
John hasn't said anything in a while.
Nothing. And what time is it? It's 10:49 their time.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should call them on the podcast and put them on the spot.
Do it. See if they answer us.
You give me the final thoughts, and then I'm going to call Todd to see if Todd answers. And then if he answers, I'll interrupt you.
Just making sure you guys still like us.
Yep. So, okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Go. Final thoughts.
My final thoughts are that all of these are important, and there's a countless number of KPIs that you can track. And I know all of these that we talked about today, but do I track all of them like clockwork without fail? No, I don't. I'm always working to be better. And it's like Edgar said, don't try to start with a bunch, just pick a couple and perfect those and then add on to that. And the thing is that a lot of us are probably tracking a lot more KPIs than we would think. We're just not doing it like consciously and putting it down and tracking it and trending it. So the goal is...
Hello, this is Todd with AquaStar. Please leave me a message. Hey, buddy.
What's up? Hey, you're live on the air.
No, yeah.
Dude, like, I'm not kidding. You're live on the air. It went to voicemail. How did you manage to pick that up?
I don't know, but we are literally right in the middle of this.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about.
We're following.
Like, we have been doing the podcast and we're like, and by the way, I'm not kidding. You're live. Everybody can hear you. I'm sitting there going, these people are up there. They got jammers and these people to post. Like, we've got FOMO. We're on the air. We're like, let's call Todd and see how it's going.
We are not allowed to post. And Olaf's looking at me right now going, why are you on the phone?
tell
it's going really well.
Yeah. So how's everybody doing out there? Everybody having a great time?
Everyone's having a great time. We're having a lot of fun.
So we just want you to know that we have some major FOMO. Like, we've been doing the live podcast. We keep scrambling through Instagram, looking for pictures. We shared the picture of the bus and all that kind of stuff, but we have FOMO, bro.
Yeah, we wish you guys were here. We wish we could bring everybody. Next year, it's going to be bigger.
Nice.
But yeah, we're having a blast right now. Olaf is in his element. This is where he really geeks out on producing quality products and showing these guys what we do and why we do what we do. It's a lot of fun.
And I promise you this, Todd, it's going to be a game changer for all those people that are there, because You truly don't understand what it's like until you go through that visit at that place. It's mind-boggling.
Absolutely.
So anyways, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it. Thank you for answering. We were just, by the way, I'm not kidding you. It started to go into voicemail and then all of a sudden you answered and we were just going to goof off and leave you a crazy message. So let's tell everybody that we miss them out there and have a great time, guys. Bye.
You got it.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Hey, how'd you like that? They answered.
They did answer. I feel okay now. I was starting to worry.
You did hear where it started to go to voicemail, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, buddy. And I'm like, what?
we're still good.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I think the last point I have is this is everyone's challenge from this episode is to look at the financial side of your business and find two things that if you tracked and monitored them, they would help you be more aware of your business's health and they would help you make better business decisions and start tracking them. And again, last thing, Pool Business Matrix Group. These are things that we are going to get into. These are things that you are going to do hands-on on your own business and work on. So if this is a challenge you're ready to take, definitely register and jump in.
Absolutely.
Can I throw you final thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Edgar, final thoughts.
To me, all jokes aside, Zach, you know that I geek out. And to me, it's important for people to understand your numbers. And I tell this to people all the time. Know your numbers. Once you know your numbers, it is going to fundamentally change the way that you do business. And let's not kid ourselves. We do things because we love to do things. But at the end of the day, we all have to make money to be able to survive, to be able to thrive, to be able to do all the things that we want to do, to prepare for retirement, to do all those kinds of things. You will be a lot happier when you're able to understand your financials, when you know your numbers so that you can make those decisions so that your business can make more money. And I am not saying that money makes you happy, but it makes things a lot easier for you, right? And if you have the money and your business is making money, you're going to have the tools to be able to continue to better your business, whether it's more training for your employees, whether it's more perks for your employees, whatever it is, it's going to make that road a little bit easier. And we're always in fear because we're never taught from a young age, these are your finances, this is how you manage them. People don't want to share. But once you get over that and you pull that curtain open and you say, you know what, I'm going to learn about this. It's just like every other part of your business, right? You're going to flex that muscle. That muscle is going to get stronger. You're going to understand it more and more. And all it's going to do is it's going to make you stronger and it's going to make you more successful at your business. So that's my final thoughts. Mr. Zacharias, thank you so much for jumping on. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Catch me and John next Wednesday on the live Instagram Live. We talked to some of the pool pros. We're going to talk to a couple pool pros that we weren't able to get to this last week. So hope everybody has a great weekend and we'll catch you on the other side.
See ya.
Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at pool.nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to poolinvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. Poolmanuniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at poolmanuniversity.com.